What's up, everybody? This is Ken with Real Talk 1111. I'm really excited about today's episode. Today's episode, I have my first female guest. Um, I'm a little excited and a little bit starstruck. I met her in the rooms, and she's serious. She's serious about her recovery, and she's an old soul, man. She's an OG. Um, and I wanted to get her on here to, just describe about recovery in all areas of the nation. She's from Vegas, so this will be an exciting episode. I want to start off by thanking my higher power. Um, Without my higher power, the source of all things, this would not be possible. I also want to thank Kat Artemis, the author of Directed Thoughts. Thank you, girl, for always supporting me and let me know that anything is possible. And then so on to today's guest. Her name's Icy. Uh, Icy H. She's a mom. She's a mentor. She's a poet, a daughter, a friend, a sister, and she's now the author of her own story. And I give you Icy H.
You can.
Hi, Icy. uh, we had a little bit of technical difficulty earlier, but we were talking. Um, Icy's from Vegas, man. And how did you get from Vegas to Lancaster, Ohio?
Um, it's yeah, it's a question I've been asked a lot. Because it's like why if you're from Vegas and that's like like the party life, like why would you leave? But I mean, long story short, so like my mom never really had a relationship with her dad. And when she did get back in contact with him, she found out that he was pretty sick, and so she decided to come out here and spend his final years with him and get to know him and she left in like early 2012 and she wanted me to come with her. And I had told her that I had kind of already started my own family. Like I had my daughter, I was pregnant with my middle son, and, I wasn't going to uproot my whole life and my family and my kids and, take them away from their father when he hadn't done anything to really deserve that. Um, so she moved out here and she told me for the longest time, she's like, "You'd love it, because Vegas is very desert. It doesn't have really like real trees or
Hmm.
anything. It's just rocks and dirt." And I didn't believe her. I'm like, "No, like there's snow out there. Like I'm not going out there. We don't get snow here." And then it was just like after I had my son, like my addiction slowly started to kind of take control. Not fully though. It was just like little parties here and there. And then, late 2014, like I found myself in a pretty like bad relationship. My partner at the time was using meth, and it got abusive really fast, and I was pregnant with my youngest son, and so I needed to go. He put me and my son's life in jeopardy. And so I came out here, and at the time, my mom was living in Canal, and I gave birth to my youngest son in Canal. And based off of like my childhood, my mom didn't allow my dad to be a part of my life, and so when I had my youngest son, I decided literally a month after he was born that I was going to move back to Vegas so his dad could be a part of his life, and then that just kind of led into more like just addiction. It really took off from there, and
Yeah, yeah.
this was the one place that I could always come to. That I knew that I had like a church family that loved me, and I never used here. So that
Hmm.
was one of the biggest things. Like I needed that geographical, and
Yeah.
now I'm in a position where it saved my life.
Well, they say to change people, places, and things, and like, so grew up here and lived other places and did most of my dirt in other places. So it's nice to come back where it's a safe place, you know. Your mom was an addict,
Yeah,
so you're breaking generational curses here,
yeah, yeah.
right? And I also saw, I stalked your social media a little bit, and I noticed how you were taking pictures of like all the fall leaves, and
Yes.
this is your second fall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it All the colors are
Oh
amazing.
my gosh, like incredible. It just absolutely incredible, and it's so surreal, when you go from a place that, like I said, like there's really no real trees, right? Like they're all like shipped from somewhere and planted in, like
Okay. I've
um
never been out there, but okay.
yeah, like yeah, it's different, and so coming out here where there's like actual like, like almost like forestry, like
Yeah.
the leaves
Yeah.
cover the roads and like, like the trees are so high they cover the road. Like I just, man, it's different, you know.
I'm so glad that I saw some of your pictures and some of your photos and how much appreciation you had for the leaves because sometimes I take it for granted.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's easy to do, honestly, when you're so used to it. But like for me, it's just like I never appreciated life before, Like
Yeah.
I never appreciated life before. Like I took life for granted, and now it's just like I can sit in a park and look and just like be grateful that I'm like alive to experience that.
That's something that clean addicts have is just such a gratitude and appreciation for life, the little
The
things.
smallest things, and that's something I definitely like emphasize on. Like it
Yeah.
could be a breeze in the trees or like the sound of birds chirping or just watching the leaves fall and it's just like, man, like I don't need any money for this, like it doesn't cost anything, like and I can just enjoy this moment right now,
Yeah.
like and it's yeah.
Do you think that you would have ever appreciated that if you hadn't taken that ride or taken that turn towards addiction and stuff like that? I try to bring up the paradox of life. Like, would you have even had that appreciation if you wouldn't have been a drug addict? You know?
I don't think so, honestly. Like when I think of myself in my younger years, like I just like I said, like I took life for granted and like my mind was always centered in the wrong places for the
Mhm.
longest time. I mean even before the drugs, like before the drugs it was men and attention and
Yeah.
you know, and things have definitely changed.
You work the steps.
Yeah. I'm on
Okay.
my second step right now. And I feel like, I'm trying to be a little bit easier on myself because, I one of my greatest things that I struggle with is beating myself up, and I'm like, I should be working this step faster and, I should be done with it by now. But really I don't feel like there's any like timeline, right? Like my
Yeah.
sponsor tells me like now if you take 5 years on a step, then we're gonna have to talk. But like it's okay to take your time and that and I really like I'm big on that too because a lot of times like I see people that rush through the steps,
Yeah.
and they don't get out of it what they need to. They don't learn what they need to. And so like for me, like I like to take my time because really like looking at any question in the step working guide and like thinking about it, like the things that come out on paper when I sit and I contemplate on that question,
Yeah.
it's amazing, and a lot of times when I look at a question and I don't know how to answer it, I'll come back to it. Now, it might be like 2 or 3 weeks down the road, maybe
Yeah.
sometimes a couple months, but when I come back to it, like I'm ready to answer it.
I'm the same way. I try to do one question a day.
Mhm.
One question a day, and then some. But sometimes I'll read that question in the morning and have to think about it all day, maybe sometimes till the next day. Because
Yeah.
man, the steps for me got me to realize why I wanted to escape, why I wanted to do drugs anyway in the
Mhm.
first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, um, you wanted to thank some people.
Yeah.
Um, there's WestCare Detox.
Absolutely.
Okay, who are they?
So, I went into WestCare Detox. So there was a period of my life where I was homeless in New Mexico, and you know, there was a little organization out there that really did everything that they could to help me, but I was full blown loaded at the time, and I was with my ex husband, and he went to the staff there and he was like, listen, like, we're full blown addicted to fentanyl, and you know, the only place that we know to get clean is Vegas. So they got us to ticket back, and we went there, and Thanksgiving of 2022, I believe it was. I was in WestCare Detox, and
Okay.
it changed my life. Like I was definitely scared going in there. But they woke us up for breakfast at 6 7 a.m., and there was one specific lady in there. Her name was Miss Michelle, and I just have that respect for people, right? Like Miss, Sir, you know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
so I called her Miss Michelle, and she came in, and there's a song, and I don't remember the artist right now, but the song is "I'm So Blessed," right? And she would blast that every single morning in the cafeteria. And there were those people that weren't believers,
Hmm.
right? That would just be like, "Turn that shit off," and like just be really annoyed. But it was like, even in my detox phase, like I was so grateful for her, because just that one song that she would play, and I mean, she's dancing to it and just having the time of her life, right? And she showed me really how to like just realize that I am blessed to be alive right now,
Yeah.
and it's a miracle that I'm here, and like it changed everything for me, and a lot of the stuff there, like this guy Montana, he was like a case worker for me there, and he saw me like in the midst of my abusive relationship with my husband, and we had our little one-on-one talk where he was kind of like, "What are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
God, like we can get you on your feet here, and you're so worried about him and what he's doing, and like if he leaves, like you're determined to leave with him, and like,
He, your ex-husband was your higher power?
yeah,
Yeah.
wholeheartedly,
Yeah.
yeah,
A lot of people make their significant other their higher power, or continuously look for a higher power when um, we all have one within already. And you had mentioned to me that your ex-husband was a big part of your recovery.
yeah. Like not so much my recovery, but just like my story.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I did. So I met him in recovery, you know,
Hmm.
um, and it was years of off and on,
Yeah.
but he was one of the biggest people that like taught me, like, I guess almost like my self-worth and my
Okay.
self-respect, right? Because it was like, I'm not going to sit by and watch you die, right? It's
Hmm.
either like I leave right now by myself, or I die with you, in a sense, and
Mm.
I just wasn't willing to do that. Like I knew that if I did not walk away, like I was gonna die, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Did you ever overdose?
Um, I mean, if I did, I didn't know it,
Huh.
like I've never had the Narcan or anything like that, but I'm
Yeah.
sure that there's been times where I was probably out for
Yeah.
a few minutes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And brought myself back to.
Right.
I feel like that's only by the grace of God, man. You know?
Just weren't ready to die yet, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
That's a big part of a lot of people's recovery. And so you also wanted to thank Grace Haven.
Yes.
What's Grace Haven?
So Grace Haven was when I came back to Ohio this last time around, and I got clean, which my clean date is August 7th of
Nice.
2023.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
you know,
This is where everybody applauds, right? Yeah.
yeah. Um, you know, Grace Haven is a faith-based women's sober living home ministry. Um, and they really helped me out, like in my beginning stages of recovery. Like they taught me, to be still, for sure. And
Right.
like being still is not something that I'm very good at, right? I'm a person that's diagnosed with very high anxiety,
Yeah.
and they were very strict, right? But I needed that discipline. I needed that time to literally be sat down by my higher power, and like get focused, and think about like the direction that my life was going, and what I wanted out of life, what was best for me.
Mhm.
And there were a lot more times than not where I was like frustrated with things in the home, you know?
Yeah.
Um
Yeah. You're
like
living with a bunch of other.
I
women?
mean, a bunch of women for
Yeah.
sure, and I was one of the first ones, and then after me, a bunch of other women came, and before we knew it, we had a full house, and
How many's in a full house?
so ooh, I'd have to think about it. I know they had 4 bedrooms upstairs on the third floor, another 3 downstairs, so six,
Ooh.
7 women. Yeah,
That's a lot of personalities.
yeah, for sure, but I'm grateful for the women that I was in there with at the time. Like I built relationships with these women, and a lot of them I'm still friends with today.
Yeah.
And we keep in contact with each other to the best of our ability. We have jobs, we have lives now. But that house, I mean, it's out. The house is out in Sugar Grove in the country, away from everything. It was a beautiful environment for me,
Yeah.
but it was also like a real testament to my recovery. Like not only did they kind of help me rebuild my life, but they also like they taught me how to be still and sit with a lot of my emotions, and I went through one of the most traumatic experiences while I was in that home. Um, my stepfather passed away when I had either less than or a little more than 60 days clean.
Mm,
And I had to ask myself in that moment, this is the man that raised me,
yeah.
and he was one of my biggest abusers in my childhood, and then he became one of my biggest motivators in my
Ah.
recovery. Like I would call him, and
Mhm.
the conversation mainly consisted of us talking about like God and the Bible and how good God is, and you know, um, so losing him was huge for me. Um, and I had to ask myself in that moment, like, am I going to do the same thing that I've always done and like go out and use over my pain, or am I going to sit here and get through this because that's not what he would want for me, and keep going. And without those women there, I really don't know what I would have done, right? Like they barely knew me. They
Yeah.
didn't know my stepdad from Adam, but when we got the news, like they were all there for me. They were willing to like hug me and hold me and just sit with me in that pain. And
Yeah.
that alone was like it changed my life, you know.
You you checked yourself in, you weren't court ordered,
Nope.
none of that. You were
I have
just
a,
ready.
I have a completely clean criminal record. Again, only by the grace of God,
Okay.
because there's so much stuff that I did in my addiction that I'm like, I should have been caught for that, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I should be like facing prison time right now, and it never happened.
That's not your usual addict story,
Right,
but you were ready. And I like how you talk about the bonds that you formed in treatment and in recovery, because a lot of people are scared, are scared to go and are scared to check themselves in.
yeah,
And you really gain some family.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so then from Grace Haven, Where'd you go from there?
So, at 81 days clean, I left Grace Haven. I went to Lighthouse,
Hmm.
uh, Lighthouse Behavioral Health, and it was a year-long program.
Hmm.
Um, that I was completely willing to dedicate myself to. And I more so went that route because like with Grace Haven, the fact that they're faith based, they just had different beliefs than I did,
Okay.
and I being raised in the program, it was really hard for me to not be able to go to meetings and,
Yeah.
have that. Like it was more so like Bible studies and um we were supposed to have a like 12-step meeting with Jesus and 12-step meeting like throughout the week.
Hmm.
They have a weekly agenda that they stick to. And, so I knew that I needed something more
Yeah.
and different. And,
Different.
you know,
Different for sure. Um, for anybody who doesn't know, Narcotics Anonymous and the rooms and the 12 steps that are followed there are spiritual. It's a spiritual, not religious program. And so how I try to describe that is spiritual religion tells you what to believe,
Yeah.
and spirituality lets you figure it out for yourself.
Yeah. And I've always been the type of person that has fully believed like there's religion and
Mhm.
then there's relationship, right? And like today I have a
Relationship
relationship
with your
with my
higher power.
God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's a collaboration. We were just talking about this last night. You're on step two, which is turning your, is that turning your will? No?
That's the third. We came to believe that power greater than
Okay.
ourselves restores sanity.
Yeah. So you you really just got to believe, and have faith. Have faith that it's going to work out once you surrender.
Yeah.
So those are a couple of the beginning steps. You're at Lighthouse. You're 4 months clean, and I remember the big to do. You were really nervous. They were gonna make you house manager or
Yeah.
something.
Resident manager in my house.
Yeah,
Yeah. Which I
yeah.
still am today.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And in the beginning, you had a little bit of trouble with that. I mean, I know people. Uh, some people give you a hard time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You know,
How many women?
right now I have uh three
Okay.
in my house, but we can hold up to four other than me.
Hmm. And with Lighthouse, still in the Lighthouse.
Yep.
And with Lighthouse, so you go to groups, you start out 6 days a week, 7 days a week groups.
No, it's 5 days a week. You have a
Okay.
group Monday through Friday, and then typically on the weekends, like when we do have peer support, which we don't right now. They take you to meetings, they take you to the grocery store because as a phase zero, you can't do anything other than with staff or with your resident manager.
Yeah, they don't want you to work or anything.
Yeah.
So, and then you phase up, you're 4 days a week.
Yeah, well, it's not so much with the phase up. So like you do 90 days of 5 day IOP.
Hmm.
And in that time, so like a lot of times, when you come in as a zero, as long as you do well and you do what you're supposed to and you follow the rules and you're not missing your appointments and stuff like that, you can phase up to a one within like 2 weeks.
Okay.
When you're a one, which this wasn't the case when I got in, but when you're a one, you can transport yourself to and from group and to and from your doctor's appointments. And you can also travel with the phase two. The phase two is where you get a lot of your freedom, but they want you to be
Hmm.
a phase one for about, 4 weeks, month and a half, depending on how you're doing,
Okay.
before you get to that next phase. And, so then you go into 4 day IOP, and that's 120 days. And it's, the curriculum's different with every group, right? So, like, 5 day IOP gave me a lot of education about my addiction and co occurring disorders and things like that. 4 day IOP was more like getting into like the nitty gritty of stuff. So like trauma, the you know,
Some coping skills,
yeah,
stuff
coping
like that.
skills, things like that. And then once you finish 4 day, you have 3 day IOP, which is 90 days, and that's more like preparing you for life, right? So like the financial, the like loans and insurance and stuff like that.
Wow. Okay.
Just really teaching you like how to be an adult, so to speak.
Yeah, so that they're just not setting you out on your ass,
No,
and you're surprised wondering how life is supposed to be.
right.
A lot of these treatment places are getting better about that, and giving you some classes and some groups,
Yeah.
and trying to make sure that you're ready to live. Uh, so you're still house manager? You getting ready to graduate?
I've already graduated. I
Oh,
graduated a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
nice. So they let you stay?
Yeah, so after you graduate, as long as you're, making an effort to find your next step, typically they work with you. Now,
Okay.
I have seen one experience where, somebody graduated and wasn't trying to do anything as far as finding a place to stay or saving money or anything. And
Yeah.
stayed for 6 months and, unfortunately got evicted.
Mm,
Because I mean, and that's one thing they really emphasize on, like, you're not going to be here forever,
yeah,
and you
yeah,
need to figure out what you're going to do.
yeah. I get it. I get it. So when I was in sober living, we had to fill out these papers, and um, we had to show, how much we had saved and where we were looking, and all that stuff, and just try to show that we were making an effort. And I think really that's all they want,
Yeah,
is making an effort.
right.
Um, what was this? You said you wanted to thank some people that paid for a Greyhound to get you back here from Vegas.
Yeah, so shortly before I got clean, I was staying in Front, Nevada with someone that at the time I thought was, my friend and had my back. And you know, I I was still using. I mean, I was smoking weed. I was, taking whatever pills I could get. And this person claimed to have seizures, right? And so I'm in the house and I'm taking a nap one day, and apparently she got a grand mal seizure, and um, immediately like came at me talking about, I could have died, and you weren't even away, and I'm just like, I wasn't under the understanding that I had to like watch you, like that wasn't anything that we ever like discussed. So and the next thing I knew, it was like, well, so and so, the landlord of the house, was going to kick you out. I'm like, okay, so now I'm not wanted anymore in
Yeah.
this house, and I don't know what I'm going to do, right? Like, I don't have anywhere else to go. I don't have any other options. And, so I reached out to a friend of mine from out here that goes to the church that I go to, and been my friend ever since I first got here,
Yeah.
and I explained to her the situation, and I was just like, I don't know what to do, and she was like, well, do you want to come back here? And I was like, I mean, if I could, I definitely would, but I have nothing, like I don't even have an ID, so I can't get a job, like,
Hmm.
and she was like, let me see what I can do, and before I knew it, she told me that she had a Greyhound ticket for me, but didn't tell me really like how she got it, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and it wasn't until I got here that she told me that there was a group of people from my church, which I just recently found out it was about 8 people altogether that chipped in and got my ticket back here. And like, I don't even know who these people are. Like, if I knew who they were, like, I man, I would thank them, because it's like you gave me my life back, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Um, you mentioned church a lot.
Yeah.
Uh, where do you go to church at? You
I go to I go to church at Cornerstone Alive,
Okay.
which used to be Cornerstone New Testament Church. Like, if you're from Lancaster, it used to be behind Nick's Pizza.
Hmm.
It was a small, like, hole in the wall church, right?
Hmm.
Which I wasn't used to. Like, being from Vegas, like, they have a lot of mega churches out there.
Yeah.
They're more worried about like the numbers and what famous person they can bring into the church to get people to come, and things like that. So when I got to this church, it being so small, it was very family oriented, like we all knew each other, and
Right.
we all kept in touch with each other, and if one of us was struggling, like, the others would make sure that we were building each other up, kind of thing, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with it.
Just not very many people, huh?
Yeah, no.
Who's the pastor there?
Tom Underwood, and he's also the jail chaplain of Fairfield County Jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this Tom will probably come up in a lot of these episodes. He's huge, man, and he's probably an angel. He is big on recovering addicts and um, reentry. People getting out and second chance.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, huge. And that's also where they do CR.
Yeah, yeah, but we do. So there's a
Yeah, what
couple.
is CR?
So our version of CR is different. One of the things that we say in our CR meeting is, it's not your ordinary meeting. You
Okay.
know, um, because it's not so much really affiliated with like Celebrate Recovery,
Mhm.
right? Like we call it Cornerstone Recovery
Okay.
because we don't tie in with Celebrate Recovery and like their principles and things like that, you know.
Mhm.
It goes a little bit differently. Like we have a meal that we serve people at 6 o'clock,
Mhm.
and and then we have our service at 7, and we give out shifts just like you would get in recovery, right? It's not like AA, like you don't get one for every month. It goes typically the
Mhm.
same way that NA does their key tags.
Okay.
Um, we have prayer requests, like we pray for you, right? With whatever is going on, you just write your prayer down on a piece of paper, and there's usually one or two people that pray over it every week. Um, and then we have our little worship service. Sometimes it could be anywhere from like 3 to 5 songs, right? But we firmly believe in like laying whatever you have down and letting it go and continuing your week feeling a little bit lighter, right?
Yeah.
And then we have a message, and usually the message is very much so like, you know, like how are you living your recovered life now? You
Mhm.
know, so
Yeah. So how how are you living your recovery life now? And also, I saw something on your social media that said something like 50 days to something, or you're counting down to something.
yes. So, my recovery life now is wow. I can't even put it into words because the life that I have today, like I never thought that I would have, right? Like this is all something that I wanted. And I was one of those people that for the longest time, like I couldn't get 5 minutes clean,
Yeah.
let alone sometimes 5 seconds clean. And so the fact that I put, 14 months and 26 days together is like
Nice.
a miracle.
Nice.
Um, and in that, through me, like not only just stacking up clean time, right?
Mhm.
Like working a program, getting like being connected with my sponsor, um, having phone numbers and using them, right?
Yeah.
Like, um, I've been blessed with some things, you know.
Mhm.
My two oldest kids I haven't seen in 7 years due to
Okay.
my addiction and me basically just being an absent parent, right?
Right.
And also kind of like a gypsy spirit because I'm always jumping from one place to another and don't know where I want to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so I've been pretty absent in my kids' lives. And, my daughter, she actually got back in touch with me before I got clean. She reached out to me on TikTok because she's that teen age,
Yeah.
and her father didn't know that we were talking, right? And I told my daughter, I said, listen, like I don't want you getting in trouble just to talk to me, right? Like I want you to go talk to your dad. And
Hmm.
if he's comfortable with you and I talking, then I'm here for you. And so me and her dad got to talk, and it was the first civil conversation that we had had in years. Um, because I did live in a very like victim mentality where everybody else was the problem and not me, you
Right.
know. Um,
A
but
lot.
we,
A lot of us do that.
yeah, so we talked, and he was okay with me talking to my daughter and my son, which was a blessing in itself. And I've been honest with my kids the whole way, right? Like
Yeah.
so when I got into treatment, I told them like, hey, like I'm going into this treatment place and I'm not gonna have my phone. If you give me your address or I can write you letters.
Mhm.
And then when I got to that point where I could have my two phone calls a day in
Yeah.
Grace Haven, right? Like I would call them anytime that I could. And now it's kind of developed into, there was this conversation about me possibly being able to come out for Christmas. And
Oh.
I was like, oh God, like
Yeah.
that would be amazing, right? But I didn't know whether it was going to be this year or next year.
Okay.
And so we had talked about it for a few months. It was me and my kid's grandma,
Yeah.
because she was the one that initially brought it up. And she was like, "Well, I got this new job at Goodwill, right? And I'm saving up like." anywhere between like 150 to 250 every check. And
Mhm.
I didn't know if it was going to be something that we were going to like chip in on together, but I was like, you know what? I want to have all the money saved. So that way, if she says, oh, well, this happened, this came up, I had to spend this money on this, I could be like, hey, guess what? I already got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, which is huge for me too. Like, I was never good with like financial responsibility, you know? But I saved the money. And so I got a hold of her and I said, hey, listen, like, I'm probably going to buy this ticket today. We had
Yeah.
already kind of talked about dates. Um, Originally, I thought I was going out there from the 19th to the 30th, and the round trip ticket was about like 550.
Okay.
And I was like, I've got 670, like I've got that. And she was like, well, have you talked to Daquan yet? My kid's dad. And I was
Okay.
like, well, no, like we don't, like we're civil, right?
Mhm.
But we don't really talk unless it's absolutely necessary,
Yeah.
And so I messaged him and I was like, hey, like, are you okay with me coming out for Christmas? Because I've got this money and I'm ready to book this ticket and I want to do it before the tickets are gone, you know? And he was like, well, I need to think about it. Can you give me until, Monday? And it was Friday. And I'm like, my first instinct was like, get mad, right? But
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so I called my sponsor. I
But
said,
he's allowed to think about it, but we yeah, yeah, yeah.
I called my sponsor, and that's exactly what she told me, right? She was like, "Listen, like I know how bad you want this, and how you feel almost like justified in
Mhm.
seeing your kids because you've done all this work and stuff, but you have to understand that like not everybody's just going to be okay just because you got a year clean,
Yeah.
and this is the the consequences for your actions." And I was, you're right. Like I can't even be mad, right? So like
Mhm.
I told him, I said, you know, I'm I'm willing to do anything. And if that means waiting for an answer, then, I'll wait for that answer. Now mind you, he told me Monday, okay? And I've got people like my prayer group, right? Like I've got people praying for like the softening of his heart, right?
Mhm.
And Sunday night he messaged me and he was like, hey, you can book the ticket. I was like, you know. So now, like, I've got everything booked. Like, I've got and that was the thing too. That was another blessing. It's like, so I go and I'm like, what dates do you want me to book for? And he's like the 23rd through the 27th, and I'm like, okay. Well, I go look at those tickets, and it was 850,
Yeah.
more than what I had. And so I'm stressing out and I'm freaking out, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to worry about this right now. I'm going to go to bed and I'm going to sleep on it, and then I'll wake up tomorrow and I'll figure everything out. Okay. And so I wake up the next morning, and my home group, my virtual home group, is based out of Vegas. It's a meeting that I attend every morning,
Mhm.
just about. And I have a friend on there, Michelle, who has seen me, before I got clean. Like she saw me when I was, because Zoom, that was a thing that we got blessed with it, during COVID. And the one thing that I learned about Zoom very fast is you can turn your camera off, right? And so I was still getting loaded and going to meetings.
Yeah.
I would turn my camera off and smoke some weed, and and I was thinking, nobody knew, right? Everybody knew, and
Yeah,
they,
I don't, well, I can't say we all, but I have definitely tried to go to meetings, still trashed, and
yeah,
you think that you're good at it or what, but people know. People
yeah, most
know.
definitely, and so she's seen me before. I got clean this time around, and she sees me now, and it's such a change, and um, so I come into the meeting, and she knows me well enough to know, she's like, "What's going on? Like you're really quiet today," and I'm like, "I'm just stressing, man." So she's like, "What's going on?" And so I explained to her the situation, and she works in insurance and she travels for work a lot, and so she's like, I just stop. Like I'm going on this whole spiel, right? Telling her, she's like, just stop. She's like, I have enough Southwest credits to get you at least one of your tickets. And like, I'm not traveling for the rest of the year. So if I can do this for you, like, I would be more than happy to. And like, you've worked really hard to get
Yeah.
to this point, and if I can be a part of you seeing your kids, like, I would love to do that for you. And I was just like overwhelmed with gratitude, dude, because it did take a huge weight off of my shoulders, and so, like, thanks to her, I mean, like, that, it, I paid for my return trip, and I've got the hotel booked. So I will be going to California for the 22nd through the 27th to see my kids for Christmas.
What?
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. And I was just talking to somebody today at community breakfast about when you're doing the next right thing, God, the universe, source, whatever you, nature, I don't care what you want to call your higher power. It opens doors for you,
Yeah.
man. It makes it possible.
Yeah. It's incredible. You know, like the gifts of recovery.
Yeah.
Like if people talk about it, but it's like, man, like when you get to see it firsthand, especially like in your own life, but also like the lives of others, like it's
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah. You have a quote on your social media. If not now, when?
yeah.
What's that?
So for me, like, I've tried this so many times, like I've tried getting clean, I've tried doing the recovery thing, and every other time didn't work for whatever reason. And I think a big part of it was just like I hadn't hit my bottom yet. I wasn't ready, and this time around it's just different, right? Like I'm not getting any younger. I'm only getting older, and as much as I would love to turn the clock back and make up for some years, like it's just not realistic,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
like that's been a big thing for me. Like, and I can't even tell you the amount of like basic texts that I got that I put my clean date in and then fucked it up somewhere along the line, you know? So it was just something that came to me. Like I didn't see it anywhere. It was just like, if I'm not gonna do this now, then when am I gonna do it? Because I see people coming into treatment that are like in their 60s,
Yeah.
and it's like if I don't get it this time, like, man, dude.
Yeah. There's people a lot older than, well, I'm a lot older than you anyway, but there's people older than us, and you're like, oh man, I do not want that to be me. But then there's also people that are a lot younger, and you're just like, oh, will you
I
please?
just want you to get it,
Ah,
like get it now while you can. And mind you, like the first time that I walked into a meeting as an addict myself, I was 17, you know, and I had people that were telling me that, like,
yeah.
get it now while you can. And I didn't, you know,
You think you're invincible or something when you're young. I don't know, or you still think it's cool. I don't know, but people are dying, man.
yeah, and, yeah, it's, I wish that I would have gotten it then, but in reality, like I'm grateful for the fact that I didn't, because
Yeah.
like the experience that I have now, um, it's like they say in recovery, like it's life or death. It's a life or death thing, and before, um, like when I got clean the first time, like it wasn't life and death for me at that point.
Yeah.
Now it definitely is. You know.
Yeah, you almost you have to go through some seasons. For me, there was a lot of people that were close to me that died uh, from this disease, and also just like my grandparents and my biological dad passed away, and my stepdad passed away, um, and you almost maybe I needed to see that level of um, of humanity
Yeah.
before I was ready.
Yeah.
Um, what else? Let me. Who's Montana Psy?
Yeah, Montana Sai. He was my caseworker at WestCare, and he was one of the ones that just really kind of like opened my eyes to some things. Shortly before I got clean, and I feel like if it weren't for some of the things that he said to me, like I wouldn't have had the perspective on the situation with my ex-husband that I did, you know, which I mean, like me leaving my ex-husband ultimately led to me getting clean, you know,
Yeah.
um, because my ex-husband, like when he used, like he went balls to the wall, you
Right.
know, and it, yeah, I would have went right along with him
Yeah.
if it weren't for some people that just spoke love into me, you know.
Montana was one of them.
Yeah,
And see, you pick up little tidbits along the way, and then you hit this certain point, and you look back, and you're like, man, that really stuck.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and then there's Myrna,
yeah,
Myrna W.
yeah. So she's passed now, but you know, my mom got clean when I was 13, and Myrna was my mom's first sponsor, and you know, she was very hardcore NA,
Yeah.
right? So like now, thank God, you know, when we go to meetings, like especially NA, like we have things like the clarity statement, right? And I remember being a kid, and you know, my mom, she would drag me and my sister on the bus in Vegas to this meeting and that, and like it was a meeting marathon all day, every day, pretty much, you
Yeah.
know. And
She had to, probably. Or that's what
yeah,
kept her clean.
yeah, and you know, and I remember going to meetings when I was younger, and like somebody that was newer, you know, would be in the meeting and they would say sober, and Myrna would be like clean, you know, like and check them really quick, and you know, but she like she taught me so much, you know, and I do feel like, you know, she saved my mom's life, you know, um, just based off of her own experience, and you know, um, I mean, this woman, like, you know, there's certain people in the program, like, you know, they have so much wisdom, right, and just so much experience, like we like to call them pillars, you know,
Okay. Yeah.
and Myrna was one of those pillars in my program, you know, and when she passed, she had 34 years clean.
Wow.
34 or 35. I think she might have just gotten 35. You know, and she had seen me through my journey. I mean, knowing me ever since 13, you know, and then coming into the rooms as an addict myself at 17. Like
Yeah.
she saw a lot um that I went through, and she was one of the ones that just wanted me to get it, you know. Um And when I did finally get it, you know, she rooted me on the whole way up until her passing, you know. And
Yeah.
when I was in Haven and I got my 30 days, like she sent me a card, and I still have it on my wall because purple was her thing. Like she is the freaking purple queen, man.
Okay.
And she wrote it in purple ink, you know,
Yeah.
and told me like congratulations on going to treatment and staying and getting 30 days, and you know, just that she loved me. And, you know, her passing was a huge loss to like my NA community in Vegas, you know, and, but she said something that still sticks with me today, right? And there's a lot of people that know her for this, right? Like she used to say, uh, have a good day, you know, you can if you want to. And
Okay.
it
I
was,
love that. I
yeah,
love that. Yeah.
um,
It's your choice.
yeah. And so, I find myself saying that to myself a lot of times, like I'm gonna have a good day because I want to, you know.
Nice. Uh, I've had a couple interviews, man, and it seems like everybody has their own little mantra that they tell themselves, that just get you through. It just
Yeah,
get you through.
yeah,
When you hit those moments, or you hear a trigger or something like that, and you're just like, you know what?
yeah,
Boom, there it is. You can have a good day if you want to.
yeah.
I love that. I love that. Um, I got something on here from stalking you, and it's actually one of your poems, but it's towards the end of one of your poems, and it says, "Someone who loves me would never corrupt me, never make me feel like they never truly loved me. So again, lying lover, I pray for you. I pray that you find something new that makes you happy and become who you want to be. I pray that a good life you'll eventually see, but forever in this life without me you'll be. ICH, you wrote that in March.
Yeah.
Um, what what's the name of that poem?
Dear lying lover.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Do you write a lot? Do you write a lot of poetry?
Um, not as much as I used to,
Yeah.
and a lot of it is writer's block. But the significance behind that poem, like I wrote that in detox, like shortly
Okay.
after I left my ex-husband, because like I was in detox with him for
Hmm.
Thanksgiving, and then earlier later that year, that following year, like in the first few months, like I went back to detox and I went on my own,
Yeah.
and tried to do it by myself. And that I sat down at one of the tables in the cafeteria, and that came out of me. And it's yeah.
That's beautiful, man. Put in some comments if you want to hear some more of Icy's stuff. I also have I have a quote on here that's on your media. It says, "Listen, I'm a safe person. If you need to fart, I ain't gonna judge you, okay?" And that's what you always struck me as, that type of person that, even if you farted, you'd be cool with it.
It'd be fine. No comments. Like it happens, right? Like,
So yeah, yeah, it happens. So my core values for Real Talk are love, integrity, respect, honesty, creativity, and gratitude. Which one of those hits you?
I think where I'm at right now in my life is definitely gratitude. You know.
I love it. I love it. Why?
Um, again, just like the fact that I'm able to appreciate life for everything that it is and all the beauty in it, you know.
Yeah.
Um, it's just different, and the life that I have in recovery. Like I've learned so much about myself, and that I didn't see before, like especially just
Hmm.
with certain things that have been going on with me in my life recently. Like I'm big on my self-respect and my self-worth, and um, refusing to tolerate certain things that I used to tolerate before, you know. Um,
Boundaries are big, man. You got to have boundaries.
yeah, boundaries are a very huge thing, and like I'm realizing now that like when I was in addiction, like I didn't care about myself at all,
Hmm.
I was very quick to like look in the mirror and not be like I love you. Like I was more so like you're a piece of shit, and like
Yeah.
you're a horrible mom and you're a dope fiend. And now it's like I can look at myself in the mirror and you're worth so much more
Yeah.
than what you give yourself credit for. And like you're beautiful and you're intelligent and you're hardworking and you're driven and you're motivated, and like you have so much to offer anybody that's willing to be in your life, like even if it's just a listening ear, you know. And
I'm so grateful for you and to have you on here, and a leader, and people look up to you, man.
yeah,
So much good stuff to say. And male, female, old, young, they all look up to you. And I'm flattered that you would even come on and share with
I'm flattered that you asked me,
us.
because I'm not one of those people to self promote at all. I mean, like, if you want to hear from me, amazing. If you don't, I get it. Like, I'm very humble.
Yeah.
So
Well, everybody that I have come on, I'm asking you in advance to come back and give us an update. Maybe after Christmas, you're gonna have a great Christmas.
that would be pretty awesome. Yeah.
Okay. I know we're on kind of a schedule, but I love you, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Uh, we'll come back. We'll have an update from Icy, and anybody who would like to hear some more poetry from Icy, or um, maybe what it's like out in Vegas, what recovery's like out in Vegas. So we'll get some updates and stuff like that. This is Real Talk 1111. Thank you.